About a century ago, a man by the name of John Howard Payne, a playwright and actress, found himself in Paris during this season quite alone. He wrote that as he looked out his window, he saw people scurrying about, and everybody seemed to be going someplace like home. And his thoughts went back to his family and his home far away, and a flood of homesickness came over him. He tried hard to drown it in his work, but it would not go away. Memories came back, joyous and comforting, memories of family and fireside, of pleasant times long ago. Home, sweet home, the words of a song began to form in his mind, and into it he poured all his aching loneliness. Mid pleasures and palaces, though we may roam, be it ever so humble, there's no place like home. In a theater production he was staging shortly thereafter in the Christmas season at Covent Garden, the song was introduced, and it became an immediate success. It left the audience awash in emotion. Millions of copies were sold. John Howard Payne returned to New York City a celebrity on the strength of that song. On the night of December 17th, 1850, in a Washington, D.C. theater, Jenny Lind, the Swedish Nightingale, with President Fillmore and Daniel Webster and Henry Clay and General Scott present, paid tribute to the man who had written this song. He died 18 months later on a tour of Africa, and the US government sent a warship to bring him home to a state funeral, which closed down business and government alike in Washington, D.C., and saw President and Cabinet and Congress and Supreme Court and military and masses of citizens pay him homage for one song about one place, home. What is it about that word? What strange power does it have? I come back to it again and again at this time of year because certainly we feel it now, if at no other time, as the whole nation is in motion, going home or hoping to go home from hospital bed or duty post, or looking for a home, if alone. Is there a time of year when solitude or homelessness is more painful than this time? A man by the name of Holmes has written, "At Christmas, all roads lead home. The filled planes and packed trains and overflowing buses all speak eloquently of a single destination, home. And despite the crowding and the crushing and the delays and the confusion, we clutch our bright packages and we smile with anticipation. We are like birds driven by an instinct we do not understand, the hunger to be at home." In a way, ironically, we are acting out the ancient story of a man and a woman and a coming child plodding along with their donkey toward their destination. It was necessary for Joseph, the earthly father, to go home to his hometown. But what is home? Well, it's places, certainly, the associations of places where we grew up, you and I, where we labored and played and celebrated and mourned. I suspect for everybody here tonight, there are some home scenes of the past that are still vivid to our minds, especially at this time of year. I remember where the tree stood in several homes and what the table spread looked like. I talk still about going home to Muskegon, Michigan, although I've not lived there for 40 years. But I think more than place, the word has to do with people. People with whom we are at home. Most often family, but also friends of long years especially. There are families tonight that are at home in Durango and in Disney World, even though their house is somewhere in this neighborhood. To be at home means, does it not, to be comfortable and at ease without any need to put on airs or live up to the occasion. Home is not home, certainly, where there is cold or distance or bitterness or hostility or envy. Home feels, well, what does it feel like? It feels like safety and quiet and acceptance and comfort, escape from the pressures and superficial judgments of the world we live in the everyday, the world of success and failure and rejection and report cards, measuring up, getting somewhere. All these may be necessary and inevitable out there, but home is where they're locked out for a while, if it's really home. We may visit someone who says, make yourself right at home, but that doesn't necessarily do it, does it? As the sign in the English country house says, it's our duty to make our guests feel right at home. It is their duty to remember that they are not. I've often used the words of Dinah Craig to express the feeling. Oh, the comfort, the inexpressible comfort of feeling safe, having neither to weigh thoughts nor measure words, but simply pouring them all out just as they are, chaff and wheat together, certain that a faithful hand will take and sift them and keep what is worth keeping, and with a breath of kindness blow the rest away. That's what real home feels like, doesn't it? And so we need to remember that home is not automatic. Home is a gift we give to one another. We make home for one another if we are willing. And certainly there are folk needy and lonely beyond the bounds of our families who also need this from us at times. As a society, we need to learn better how to provide home for so many who are homeless of place. But let us remember they're also homeless of heart in houses quite grand, who call to us for some experience of real home. So the question of the night is, will you make home for at least one person tonight, someone close to you? or somebody lonely. Sometimes they're one and the same. But then we need to remember also that apart from the home that God gives us in the presence of His love, it is exceedingly difficult for us to make home for one another. Because the reality of life together is this: our hopes and hungers always outrun what any earthly presence can do for us. There is a loneliness, I believe, in the depths of our being that is stirred perhaps never so much as at Christmas, which human presence can never quite satisfy. And we need to be aware of this, lest we spoil Christmas by bringing expectations to one another that are simply beyond us. Irma Bombeck, I think, captures this danger in the Christmas season with realism and truth. She talks about Christmas and says, "I was under the tree and had just opened a box containing 6 shrimp forks. It was a gift to me from Harry. Harry was our dog. My husband sat in a chair comatose, watching Bowling for Beers. Tinsel hung from his ears. The kids were outside riding cardboard boxes down the hill in the snow. The new sleds were here under the tree. I asked myself, is this what Christmas is all about? Can you believe Mom still has those crummy little ornaments we made?" said my daughter. "And guess who gets their ornament on the tree first?" said son number 1. "The one who created the pie tin with the picture of the Blessed Virgin pasted inside. That's who." His brother retorted, "Listen to him. You weren't first a couple of years ago. You weren't even here." Son number 1 replied, "That's right. I was in the Peace Corps that year. It was 2 years ago, I thought, and that was the worst Christmas we ever had. My feelings were ambivalent and they confused me. Didn't we do everything right? We got his teeth straightened, his hernia repaired, his body packed with vitamins, taught him how to parallel park, wipe his feet, make his own bed. We gave him room to breathe, smiled in all the right places, resisted spreading guilt around. And when he left us at the airport, he could have been saying goodbye to a wrong number. Don't worry, Mom. Worry makes you retain water. We did all the right things. We encouraged them to take responsibility for their lives, to develop independence. So why at Christmas, when they are not here, do we feel so rotten? And why do I fall apart when I hang on the Christmas tree that crummy little pie tin with a picture of the Blessed Virgin pasted inside, dangling from a soiled ribbon? Our hunger for home at Christmas cannot always be satisfied. That's the point. It'll not do that, I suspect, for many tonight, certainly not for those far from home on some duty for country or community, and those who are working in the hospital right now or lying there ill, and those who have no one with whom to share the night hours. But you see, the word of this night, the old word is that nevertheless there can be home in God. There was nothing very pretty about that first Christmas when you stop and look at it. A young couple were far from where they would have loved to be, just as many in Palestine are tonight. The sound of soldiers marching sent fright through the land, much as they still do this night in Bethlehem. The economy was in a mess way back then, and it still is. Nothing was really right about that first night, not at all. And yet somehow God was there, and that was enough. Might it not be enough for us also? Might it not be the answer under all our hungers and hopes, saving us from our human dreams and disappointments, granting us in the midst of whatever, some quiet oasis of inner serenity and peace? You see, sometimes I think it's when the hopes and demands that we make toward the world around us are frustrated that we're driven deeper to an answer that only God can give and does give in the gift of the one who came so long ago. In Christmas 1943, Dietrich Bonhoeffer was separated from his family in a small cell in Tegernsee prison in Berlin, put there by the Gestapo. He had just learned that he was not to be released in time for Christmas. He writes to his parents, "Mother and Father, from the Christian point of view, there is no special problem about Christmas in a prison cell. And for many of us here, it'll probably be a more sincere and genuine occasion than in places where nothing but the name is honored. You see, that suffering and misery and loneliness and helplessness mean something quite different in the eyes of God from what they mean in the judgment of man. That God approaches even where men turn away. That Christ was born in a stable because there was no room for him in the inn. These are things that a prisoner can understand perhaps better than other people. For him, they are really good news. And that faith gives him a part in a Christian fellowship that breaks all bounds of time and space and reduces the months of confinement here to insignificant. So on Christmas Eve, I shall be thinking of you all, and I want you to know that I too shall have a few really happy hours. I'm not allowing my troubles to get the better of me. It is only when one thinks of the terrible things that so many people have been through lately that one realizes how much we have to be grateful for. No doubt it will be a very quiet Christmas, but it may perhaps bring some of us, for the first time, to what Christmas is really all about. Home with God. Or as G.K. Chesterton put it in his little poem, to an open house in the evening, home shall men come. To an older place than Eden and a taller town than Rome, to the end of the way of the wandering star, to the things that cannot be and yet are, to the place where God was homeless and all men are at home. Amen. All right, here's the loveliest part of our evening together when we sing together the familiar Christmas carols. We're only going to sing one verse, so you probably will not need your hymnal, although we've given you the numbers should you want to look them up. Here at least a collection of music that grandfather and father and son and daughter can all sing together. The first one we'll sing has words by an English Catholic layman who spent most of his life copying and selling manuscripts. He probably wrote the tune as well as the words. In any event, it's a hymn that's found in every English language hymnal that has ever been published. O come all ye faithful. I see the angels have made the front page of Time magazine, the cover at least, so we have to sing about angels, of course. Charles and John Wesley wrote together well over 1,000 hymns, but I venture to say this is probably one of their most popular ones. It's by Charles specifically. It's probably popular most because 120 years after he wrote the words, it was set to music by Mendelssohn. In any event, let's sing Hark the Herald Angels Sing. In your hymn books, you will always find this little song referred to as Luther's Cradle Hymn, even though it was written by a fellow in Pennsylvania in the 19th century, and I've never found a German who acknowledged that he had ever heard of it. But in any case, it's away in a manger. I'm told the Latin for birthday is Natalis, which in French became Noël, which traveled to England and became the first Noël. The tune goes all the way back to the 17th century, and it has 9 verses, but we'll make do with one, the first Noël. The fellow who wrote this carol, words and music, as a matter of fact, was a journalist, a lawyer, a teacher, an editor, and an Episcopal priest. And if he hadn't done it, I don't know quite how we would get through our annual pageant. We Three Kings. This carol is the one I've been singing for you for 24 years now, I think. And you still haven't learned it, so I guess I'll just keep on singing it. I learned it in Germany, where it really is the most popular carol. O thou joyful day, O du fröhliche.
O thou joyful day, O thou blessed day, holy peaceful Christmastide, earth's hopes awaken, Christ life hath taken, laud him, O laud him on every side. O du fröhliche, O du selige, gnadenbringende Weihnachtszeit, welking verloren, Christ ist geboren, freue, freue dich, O Christenheit.
The most popular carol written in this country is by all means the carol that was written by Phillips Brooks, probably one of the greatest preachers we've ever had. He was rector at Holy Trinity Church in Philadelphia. He visited the Holy Land one year, and his memories of Bethlehem on Christmas Eve stayed with him. And so he set down these words, which his organist put to music for the children's pageant in his church, O Little Town of Bethlehem. And then finally, in a moment of dedication, we like to sing the most beloved carol, certainly in this country. It was a carol that was born on Christmas Eve in 1818 in the little village church in Oberndorf, Austria, when Josef Mohr, the priest there, gave some words to the organist, Franz Gruber, so that they might have something special on Christmas Eve, because at least legend has it the mice got into the bellows of the church organ. And so this song was born and sung to the accompaniment of guitar. Not only do we owe it to mice, however, but in fact, an organ repairman that came from Zillertal heard it there and passed it on to friends of his who were folk singers. And it was they who included it in their concerts throughout Austria and Germany, and from there it made its way to Kenilworth, Illinois. So let us light our candles and sing together. Jesus said, I am the light of the world. Jesus also said, you are the light of the world. Let your light so shine that men may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. So as we sing, let us dedicate ourselves to bringing our own light, however small, into a very dark world. Someone has said, not all the darkness in the whole world can extinguish one light. Let us sing. Let us hold our lights high and hum it once together. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. And from our homes to yours, a most blessed Christmas and God's very best in the new year. Thank you for coming.